So, all right. Oblivious? Yeah, it's like oblivious and obliterate, I think. Maybe it's a mix of those two, oblivious and obliterate, where it came from. Anyways. Oh, good. So it's also in Harry Potter. That's fun. All right, good. We're learning some new words today, my friends. It's always good to expand our vocabulary and learn new words. Super fun. All right, my friends. So we also have, we got some other comments over here. And Gypsy's in the house. Gypsy says, Rob, a few weeks ago, you laughed at me for saying that the backyard gardens will soon be illegal. Did I laugh at you? I don't think so. I hope I didn't. I don't remember doing that. Well, it is here from Robert Barnes. It says, let me explain that the Amos Miller case is about after a conference, claiming all food is illegal as illegal drugs, unless it was made by self-government, the facility, they can destroy it all. Here's Barnes' law. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, look, I've already thought of it. So food is already highly regulated under the Commerce Clause, right? This is stuff we talked about here. But the Commerce Clause, basically says if you make a widget and the widget ends up in interstate commerce, even if you don't try to engage in interstate commerce, like even if you just make widgets only for your community, and you say, I'm not engaging in interstate commerce at all, it's just here locally. They say, well, if your widgets end up in interstate commerce, then we get to regulate you under the Commerce Clause because we have power under the Commerce Clause to regulate you. Of course, that goes
what up, Rick Dickman?
And all sorts of stuff. Here's a comment from Defraud. It says, Rob, I commend everybody for having any spare time from this podcast to check out this webinar linked below from weeks ago about how the CCP manipulates our capital markets. There were some heavy hitters like Roger Robinson, the former advisor to Reagan, and Frank Gaffney, long but very good summary of what's happening there.
Not sure if I'm going to be able to do a desktop stream today. We'll see. I'd like to.
With guns and
it looks like he's going to be looking at hearing.
They have basically bought all of our Congress.
I got lots of interviews supposedly coming in today.
Like China, yeah. They can't stand America, and they'd much rather celebrate something else. What's up, Tanya? They did Amos very dirty. Barnes gets very heated, as he should. I'm not familiar with that. Yeah, I don't think I'm familiar with that case. It's not ringing a bell. Terry says gardens were illegal in the USSR, and recently last year, our condo association decided that all tomatoes have to be in pots and not planted, our little section of the common ground. Yeah, I mean, controlling food is a very, 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 historical.
Yeah, I was pretty tired. I went right to bed after.
Like they don't.
After that.
The Commerce Clause.
You could tell, huh?
All of that.
I was like tilting from the beginning.
Like if you're a farmer and you produce too much milk, you might.
I promised I was going to be there, so I wasn't even going to plug in my laptop.
If you produce all this,
did you win?
Prices go down, and then you can't continue to produce that. Then we have a shortage, and because food is so so important, you can't have a shortage. And if we have a shortage because a major supplier goes down, then we're all going to starve to death. So we can regulate everything.
Morning, Kilted.
Too much if you overproduce, you might be causing disruption and disorder. So then the government basically is telling farmers, don't grow food. And
are you part of the Discord, LVA?
Efficiencies, why do our food costs go up? And all the markets are perverted by the government. They'll allow you to do certain things and not allow you.
I don't know. Usually, girl with a camera will post it on the Discord.
Food sovereignty workshop at the lodge. That true sovereignty is going to come when you don't rely on anyone else for your food. When you have enough food, or you have enough local sourcing of food, you are sovereign. Right? There are people who are lining up in food lines.
I don't mind losing, but I kind of hate losing to Ohio Steve.
Canada. Let me see if I can find this real fast. Canada food lines.
I mean, it's not like I went all in with nothing. I did have bullets, but I figured the way he was betting, he had to have a straight. But I was like, you know what? I've seen him bluff before.
I'm not going to be looking at that one, but I'm pretty sure there were food lines in Canada, maybe Toronto, and
yeah, he actually didn't even have a straight till that river card.
Yeah, X isn't working. whatever reason. Oh, here it is.
It's supposed to be 71 today, dude. I'm actually wearing a lighter shirt today.
Here's Toronto. Check out this line at a Toronto food bank.
Yeah, it was nice to see him. I'm so glad he's out.
Sad, but this is going to
honestly, in this whole community, he's been one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
A lot more people in the future.
That's why him and
get your food from the government.
frickin' get along so well, because they're pretty much opposites when they're out there.
Government food, you're going to have to get your CBDC to pay for.
Yeah, it's supposed to eventually start here too, but it's already up to 68 degrees here.
So I'm with you on that. And shout out to Robert Barnes. Yeah, Spud says the tax on food in Canada are horrendous. That's why they come to eat here. Control the food, control the people, says KB. Jerry says we actually have individuals that line up at the local 7-day amenities building for food distribution here. We have food, we have food lines here. I think most of them are like in Apache Junction and other places. Yeah, we're going to start the show early today, and we're going to live stream that whole puppy. Yeah, we're going to cover Terrence Bradley's testimony. We're going to start at 1:30 Eastern.
1:30 Eastern.
A little early.
All right.
We'll do a recap. And
perfect. Okay, I probably will go live just to play his.
Check out those Breitbart stories, which I think are very good.
His stuff.
Zone Girl says, funny, I listen to watch Tim Pool and Wendy Bell radio. They're my staples in that list. Those great shows. I actually don't know Wendy Bell. I don't know Tim Pool, obviously. But it's great. I think that's good to listen to multiple sources. It's one that's not the mainstream news. That's good. We got Red-Blooded American in the house. Says, good morning, Rob. It's going to be a beautiful day here in Southeast Texas. Good to have you here. In case you're in Texas. Our friends in Texas. And it is going to be a great day, beautiful day. Weather is getting pretty warm here in Arizona. It's kind of nice to be outside.
Yeah, Friends in Code brings a lot of people whenever he does play. I guess he played over the weekend with you guys.
Texas. Now we had some comments yesterday. Oh, Rocky Waters in the house. Yeah, yesterday we were talking about the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers. Remember that? And I still am not so sure about that pronunciation here. But Rocky shared this one yesterday. He says, Rob, good show as always. Thanks. You know, I was on the morning show though yesterday. And I thought I heard you guys talking about, you know, when you're doing construction and you have a seam that you need to make sure is sealed appropriately.
Give me an iced tea to sip on at work.
You don't want air coming through there.
I finally got my espresso blend back, though.
Stuff in, and you caulk it. You understand? With caulk, you put it in there. C-A-U-L-K. I heard you guys talking about caulk or caulking again. You know, it's parts. He says, anyhow, I'm currently doing some home projects, and I welcome any advice. So there are so many different caulks out there that I never know which one's best. Yeah, it's a common problem, Rocky. You know, you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you go to the caulk section, it's just like, you know, floor to ceiling. Just so many options there. And I think, you know, it depends on the application, obviously. It depends what you're doing. Some of them are better for concrete. Some of them are better for, you know, drywall. Like for example, like if you're going to do a baseboard, you know, on your wall, you're probably going to want a different kind of caulk, something that's a little smooth, something that's not as heavy, something that'll blend in there.
All right, guys, I'll be right back. We'll grab some tea, maybe a snack.
Take a rag, you know, kind of wet that rag down, put a nice layer of that caulk in there, and then just kind of wipe it down with the rag, get a really nice smooth seam there. But if you're outside, you know, like if you're, you know, it depends what you're doing. If you're outside, you're going to want definitely a different type of caulk. Inside versus outside is different. And you're something a little more durable, you know. But whatever you do, you're definitely going to want to get a caulk gun, all right, so that you can put it in there, you can just shoot it, and just squeeze it, and it just comes out the very tip, and you just squeeze it right in, caulk like crazy. And as K Bean says, make sure you pronounce that L in that word, all right. You know, it's the important part of construction. Caulk it up out there. All right. So, anyways, so good luck on your project there, Rocky Water, and thanks. Thanks for the great conversation. It's very important out there. Yeah, I used to do some construction back in the day, my friends. It is true. All right. Yeah, and be careful about caulking in public, because if you screw up, everyone's going to see it. Everyone's going to see, oh, that guy doesn't know what he's doing, obviously, or an amateur. Yeah. All right. Make sure everything is nice and sealed. All right. Make sure everything's nice and sealed when you're out there in your construction. What's up, 51K? We got some good donos in the house. Hey, what's up? 51K says, I've always used attorney and lawyer interchangeably. I had no idea there's an actual difference between them. So if an attorney gets disbarred, they're still a lawyer, correct? Well, it kind of depends, like, how you're asking, the context of how you're asking. So if I got disbarred, I would not call myself a lawyer. I wouldn't. I would say, no, I'm not an attorney or a lawyer. I would use them more interchangeably. When I think of lawyer or an attorney, I think of someone who is licensed. So if you don't have a license, then I would say you're not a lawyer. Like, you can't go into court and practice law. So I would say you're not a lawyer. Now, some people will say that having a JD makes you, a lawyer, I guess. I mean, that might be an argument. I'm trying to determine what your distinction is between the words. But I think of it as a license, right? An attorney and a lawyer, you got to have a license to act as an attorney. I use them basically interchangeably. But some people, the distinction will be about JD. They'll say, I went to law school, I graduated with my JD, therefore I am a lawyer. I think that's what you're hinting at. But I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, because I would say that you need a license. Hey, what's up, Surfer Rick? What's up, Surfer Rick? Says, if you think about it, a vanilla ice cream cone is really just an adult version of a baby bottle. Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, I'm a grown-up, but can you please freeze my milk, scoop it in a sugar cone, and then shape it into a nickel so that I can just, like, lick it up? And Joe Biden's, like, doing that in front of the cameras. It's,
What happened? What happened?
in 2023. Good dates. Thank you for that, Dan. There is an internet link for Wade and the Campbell firm, but but no LLC being formed in that name. The individual names are Nathan Wade, Terrence Bradley, and Christopher Campbell. It's like these guys have no business formation skills at all. They're lawyers. I just think they think they're above it all. There's not going to be any consequences. They can just do whatever they want. They have to do whatever they want. So, great dates. So the relationship ended there in about 2023. And 51K says, hey, Rob, after listening to yesterday's afternoon show, I can't help but think that everyone in Fanny's circle is begging her to jump down at this point. But she absolutely refuses to back down, willing to burn the whole office to the ground for her ego. Would you say that's a fair assessment? I think so at this point. Yeah, I think Fanny's probably made the calculation that she'd rather be a martyr than do the right thing and have integrity and save her career. So, in other words, I think, the bigger play for her is the bigger story. The more explosive this can be, the bigger, her future might be. She'll get a role on MSNBC or something, right? She'll claim herself the victim, and she'll be an activist as a result of being taken out. But if she steps down, then she admits that she
Really?
did something wrong. So she'd rather be taken out and parlay that
Be hard to
something more.
I don't know.
And
be pretty hard to argue that.
Outcome for her than admitting fault and saying I was wrong.
Especially when there's a price on it.
The consequences. And honestly, I think we have a bit of a sunk cost fallacy here. I think she's in over her head now. I mean, she's already lied and lied and lied, so she can't come out and now admit that she's lying. The right time for her to back off would have been before this all started, before she actually lied. And we knew she was going to lie. Like, the evidence was pretty clear even before the hearing. You know, that there was a lot of smoke here, and she just confirmed it, of course, and really added to it. So I think she's too far deep in. I think she has to be taken out. And
I'll have to look that up.
Wade was present during unless she wakes up and somebody's like, "Yo, baby, you are going to wreck the entire Trump prosecution." Like, unless the White House or somebody tells her to get out of here. But even then, like, I think that they'll have to admit fault. They'll have to say that this hero of America is suddenly not what they said. So their credibility will also be shot because they put all their eggs in the Fannie basket. Yeah, and NY says, remember Wade was present during the job interview of the former governor? What coincidence. It's so obvious what Fannie did. It's embarrassing. It is. It's like, it's shocking that she just keeps going. Doubling down all day long. C. Nana says it's too late for Joe to create an image now. He's just being bribed by ice cream. Ice cream sets don't take this too seriously tone. It's friendly from C. Nana. Yeah, it's just friendly. Yeah, I like that. From C. Nana. Fannie knows the anti-Trumpers will always love her. Yeah, if she's taken out, then get the view. I put her on the view. Spicy says there's already no credibility left anymore in Fulton County, so it's about raw power. Yeah, good comments. We played that video, Cruz, at the start. The video of from our friends in Italy. They got it over. Hey, we the people here. Hey, what's up, we the people? Says Rob, I just pulled the trigger on becoming a member. Well, thank you, we the people. We're glad that you did. Welcome aboard. It says, but I have been watching your videos every day since you had around 18,000 subs. Oh my gosh. It's crazy, right? How much has changed in a short time. And that's about around Rick Fence, right? We're just getting started. And there's so much stuff. How much we've done from here. Oh my gosh. And we're just brought it up, man. And this year is going to be short in so many ways. We're living it right now. And this was, we might not have another epoch of judicial.
Why the fuck does me getting a text message fuck up the audio?
Fired up about this, paying close attention, realizing the government doesn't necessarily care about them at all, and they want to do something about it. It's great. Hey, and Defrauded is also sharing this. I commend everybody to go watch this. Yeah, the fanny pack. All the eggs in the fanny pack. Incredible. Okay, so my friends, let us leave it there. Now, we are going to come back here in a few short hours. We got these other comments. Oh my gosh, look at all this caulk in the house. Yeah, there you go. There's that caulking gun right in there. Yeah, see, concrete, like a filler, concrete filler. That's paintable. So it kind of depends. It's a sealant, you want a filler, you want something that's paintable. Window, door, sliding, and trim. There you go. Right? That's kind of what I was talking about, the baseboards. That's great. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a very good skill set to have. You can really get a lot done. Thank you, Jesser Bob. And Jesser Bob, female, as we learned yesterday from your daughter. Good to see you, Jesser Bob. Jesser Bob's got a lot of caulking experience over there too. You can see it right there. It's a good skill set. And this one from Dan. Maybe it is all about Wade and Willis not wanting to pay 2/3 of the $670,000 to his partners, Bradley and Campbell. You boot them, and when the Fulton County DA contracts becomes renewed for the second time, 1/3 becomes 1/2, becomes 100%, dropping to the big Nathan. Yeah, so they wanted to create a reason to boot him out, right? Create a reason. Oh, you assaulted some people. It's like, what? You're out of here. I didn't do it. Like, you're out of here. Because he wants the full amount of money. And, like, by the way, like, why why would they split it? Why would he give 2/3 of all of his hard work to someone else? It doesn't make any sense. NY says, Rob, why is it that the legal system takes practicing law without a license? But in the area of health, many make a business offering medical advice without any consequences. Oh. Yeah, I mean, practicing, well, probably because we have to interface with something. Like, you can give practicing law without a license means you're like filing something, right? You're sending a letter to somebody that you're doing something that impacts other people. So there's a middle person. You guys file a court proceeding, you send it to a lawyer or something like that. Medical device is just one-to-one. So somebody just says, I took this, you should take it too. Perfect, I'll take it. Right? So there's no like third party. I think that's probably why it's hard to go monitor that stuff. But it's a great question. Very good question indeed.
Yeah, she's all over
I'm going to leave
Twitter.
it there. Now we're going to be back here in just about an hour and 20 minutes.
She'll drop it. She'll drop in my
start here
desktop streams once in a while.
1:30 Eastern time, 30 minutes before the live stream should start, so we can warm the tubes up and so that we can cover those Breitbart stories.
Yeah, if you want to interact with her, definitely.
Coming, do a little bit of a recap.
You find her on Twitter.
And we'll assemble, some of the daily updates.
Some of her takes are a bit cringy, but I love her.
It could be a very long hearing. It could be explosive. It could be pretty minor. Really don't know. That's why it's so fun.
I got you.
We're be here to get into it again, and so come back and join us. We're going to open up the tubes on all the main platforms and here on local.
I'm on my second username there. Since Elon's taken over.
Knock out those final to-do list items. We'll be back to
they never even told me why they removed my first account.
Terrence Bradley's back on the stand. So my friends, see it back here.
Oh, I even streamed. I streamed to it now on my new account.
See you in a couple hours. Less than that. Bye, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.
How's this? Oh, no, I get it. It's not good for Anna either, believe me. She gets suspended constantly. She's on her second name this year. So I guess Shane Gillis SNL, even though there's been some critical reviews of it, got the highest ratings that show's had in almost 20 years. And he picked up, he's got a Netflix series coming out based on his tires skits. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those. They're fucking hilarious. I know they're removing a bunch of them from YouTube because Netflix is coming out with this. Yeah. That's the first time I've seen SNL in over 10 years. I think the last time I saw it was when Norm Macdonald came back on. Jesus Christ, this guy is fucking... Look at this. I'm going. Oh, no, you gonna piss me off, dude? This guy is dead on my ass, and I'm thinking about taking my time to get over. Look at this son of a bitch. Old lady. Driving too slow for that old lady. For her family stories, yeah. Everybody wanted to rip on him about him bringing up Down syndrome. But the actor who played Corky back him up. ISIS car rental. Oh my God, it's hilarious. Yeah, ISIS car rental is pretty fucking funny. All right, let's get some Russell on until we get there. I'm gonna get over so this guy can come up. Go ahead, rush up to that cop.
Not have a war. And it's also good to be discerning about these globalist establishment elites that are looking to engage in unwinnable wars with nuclear superpowers in order to drain them to their own unipower agenda, which I believe will also include tyrannizing us through every available means. Let me know in the chat if that makes sense to you. Diana, which is prisoners in her own land. Diana, I've got to agree with you. So, in so doing, the Times has revealed its own coverage of the US.
Right. I mean, that's like you said. You guys don't understand it unless you have it in your family or you work with them. But they're like the only people in the world that don't give a fuck.
You
know, they're not worried about the election.
CIA was building spy bases in Ukraine along the Russian border starting 2014. I wonder how we would respond if Russia or China built spy bases on the US-Mexico border.
One of my buddies that works, he's actually the executive director at Legends. He's got a sister with Down. She is the biggest sweetheart in the world.
In fact, it seems the CIA only made matters worse.
She works at the local grocery store. She's worked there for 30 years. She's almost 50. She's worked there since she was 18.
Because they needed a new place to launder millions upon millions as a black hole for weapons to be covertly trafficked after the US pulled out the Afghanistan war and to create a new blowback boogeyman.
What sucks about that is kids are cruel.
Web and RFK, the analysis of that New York Times article, or the argument still advanced to you by Anthony Blinken, by the likes of Kamala Harris, the likes of Joe Biden, who are clearly shilling for the military-industrial complex, pursuing a unipolar agenda to generate a one-world government where all of us are too much. It's of course conjecture, but maybe the legacy media will be reporting on that from some sort of burrow somewhere in a decade or so. We gave you a little poll earlier to ask you what you thought. CIA bases in Ukraine for 10 years. Does this Russia's criminal invasion of Ukraine was A, provoked, B, unprovoked, C, a complex geopolitical situation for which a diplomatic solution ought to be sought? Only 3% went for B. So
oh, wow.
There you go. This is a new revelation about the nature of that war that we all have to consider. Now, before we get to Trudeau talking about Russia,
there's not even a quarter mile from my house. You guys have probably seen it as I come home and leave.
We're going to be talking to Rand.
Oh no, they're jacking over at the bar. Shit. But it's called Bittersweet Farms. It's a whole community of folks. And what's funny is because he talks about how they started a coffee shop. They literally in White House they have a coffee shop too. And yes, it's so busy, but it's definitely not the best coffee in the world. The band is family, that's too bad. But yeah, you can't have that. I mean, they know right from wrong, but I'm sure that the obsession, once you figure it out. He even talks about that. Shane Gillis talks about that, about how you're gay for your mom until the first day you whack off, and then you're like, when is this bitch gonna leave the house?
Besides, he's gonna just invade Russia. Nothing like his Who may Circle K thanks? Never gave the hearts and souls of the great people. Never extinguish our love of freedom. We're not waiting for that process to be finished to make long-term commitments that we're making to create security. Mr. Zelensky and
Older.
we're dealing with it for a cool second. Inflation is a worldwide problem right now. It's all the war in Iraq, the impact on oil, which Russia's doing. There's going to be the war in Ukraine.
It seems that this is yet another global story that's been heavily censored, about which we have been deeply deceived
They are.
by the very interests that
I could give kids a pass, though.
the state and tell us the truth. How can we ever trust them again? Particularly knowing
Adults, they could get a fucking kick in the teeth.
Australians, were one of the most diligent, fastidious, some would say even draconian nations when it came to their response to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, vaccine mandates are having to be addressed through legislation because, they were illegal, they were unlawful, as well as your people say. I'm talking to you guys on rough right now. So look at this story from Australian legacy media. Australian stuff well.
Ruling in favour of Queensland's frontline workers who took their bosses to court fighting against COVID-19 vaccine mandates.
It's amazing how quiet the world is about Rothschild.
Paramedics to get the jab were unlawful and had no power.
Burning in hell.
They sobbed and cheered inside court and even louder out. Yeah, that's
Speaks volumes around the clock's feel about the decision.
Dozens of police officers and paramedics challenged Queensland's COVID-19 vaccine mandates, arguing they should never have been forced to choose between getting the jab and keeping the
Did you see that the King's Guard marched through London with the black flag when he died?
So there you are.
It tells you.
The beginning of a series of, I would say, embarrassing capitulations of a global backtrack where it hasn't acknowledged. For example, in New York City, didn't 34,000 key workers lose their jobs because they didn't want to get vaccinated? As it turns out,
it was on Twitter.
There are adverse injuries that might amount to more danger than the
Usually that only happens when a member of the royal family dies.
supposed benefits of that medication. Are we going to see a global reckoning, or are we still going to cling to the idea that this was a pandemic of the unvaccinated, as was widely claimed at the time? Remember this?
Right now is a pandemic. The pandemic of the unvaccinated. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
This has become a pandemic that is spreading rapidly amongst parts of people who are unvaccinated.
We're calling it a pandemic among the unvaccinated.
Pandemic of the unvaccinated.
A pandemic of the unvaccinated. Doctors call it a pandemic.
I'll have some smack on the vaccine.
A pandemic of the unvaccinated.
A pandemic resurgence fueled by the unvaccinated.
A massive pandemic of the unvaccinated.
I think we've been very clear that this is a
Vaccination.
You can really rely on the old legacy media to tell you the truth and to represent.
Oh yeah, they've been doing it for a long time.
Find messages of the powerful all the way to our graveyard. D-Day 1990 is so scripted, he says in the chat. Yeah, you are right, guys.
But they changed their name back in the 1600s.
If you look right now, I'm talking to you, KG Mooney, and I'm talking to you, American Sun 76. I'm talking to all of you. Let me know what your questions around Paul are. Enjoy the conversation live.
They boasted that they created Israel.
To get behind enemy lines and go into the mainstream. He's Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, one of those Oprah, such a big star, she generated more staff, didn't she? She was like a star factory, and like Eckhart Tolle, he's one of hers. Deepak Chopra, he's one of hers. And Marianne Williamson, she one of hers. Dr. Phil, he's gone rogue. He's gone on The View, and he's upset with the Goldberg with. I mean, I don't know how controversial does it sound to you. Maybe children shouldn't be vaccinated because natural immunity is effective in preventing, and children don't.
I don't really care that much about wealth. It's what you do with it
Anyway,
and how you obtained it.
Agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that?
couple of deaths
Yeah,
going on. They were trying to save
they were trying to save kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bomb, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be safe. Because no,
I think even at the time people were saying children weren't particularly susceptible. I suppose this shows you how difficult it is to backtrack on a belief like that. It's going to be really interesting, I think, the next few years, because we're going to see the truth penetrating new communities who are going to have to equip themselves with the understanding that they have been lied to and that they complied. And I don't blame people who did, because there were perfectly reasonable explanations for that compliance. People, if someone says to you, your elderly relatives are at risk if you don't get a vaccine, get a vaccine. I mean, I did loads of
very
stuff
much so.
during that period that I wouldn't normally. You know, we've got to stay in your house.
Very much.
I quite like it. It's my doggies, my children, all that kind of stuff. But let's face it, a reckoning is coming down the line. You are seeing now, I think, with the release of this unprecedented and large study, an attempt to mitigate the outrage that will be released when people understand the scale of this deception. And I think similarly, there will be a problem when people understand that this war that was described as unprovoked was provoked. When a culture starts creating icons like Aaron Bushnell, I don't mean icon in the same way I consider Elvis Presley an icon, or Maya Angelou. I mean a literal representative symbol of the condition of our time. Remember, like most of us, if we have an image of self-immolation, it's normally like a monk or something like that, right? That's the image that you have in your mind. People that are in transcendent states from an entirely different culture. And active service personnel setting themselves on fire is a perfect image for understanding how out of control the war machine and the military-industrial complex are. So we ask in our investigation today, if the public don't want this war, if service personnel don't want this war, who wants this war? Now let me know in the Rumble chat, who wants this war? Who benefits from this war? Who opposes these wars? Let me know as well. You Awaken Wonders over at Locals, because this is an important conversation. Later on in the show, we're going to be looking at Biden's mad appearances on, like it was on Seth Meyers, wasn't it? And a bunch of other stories as well. So stay with us all the way through this. But for now, here's the news. No, here's the effing news. Active US serviceman Aaron Bushnell set himself on fire to protest against US involvement in Middle Eastern war. If the troops themselves don't support these wars, if the public don't support these wars, who are these wars for and who benefits from them? Now we have a martyred man on our hands.
Who benefits
Aaron
from any
Bushnell,
war?
Who may have mental health issues. He may be suffering from a variety of conditions. We're unable to assess that
Hey,
yet.
Clay
What we
Warren.
can say for certain is a person who felt strongly enough in his nation, America, to live his life dedicated to it through active military service, has set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in protest against the ongoing Middle Eastern war, which some people would call, of course, and let me know in the chat how you feel about this, a genocide
Yeah, the
in
rich.
Gaza. Now, what does it tell us
It's
about
already
the
rich.
military-industrial complex and the state of the unipolar
People that make
ambitions
weapons.
of the military-industrial complex? The idea that you cannot have an ascendant Russia or a thriving China. What you must have is globalist state backed by institutions like NATO. Have we reached the point where you can't even use the time-honoured argument that it is unpatriotic to not support war, that we have to support the troops? Those people that bravely put themselves on the front line have to be respected, and to question wars is to question their loyalty, is to daub yourself anti-patriotic. Well, what does this event tell us? And indeed, imagine if this protester were aligned to issues that the state supports, how this death would be exploited. Imagine that this could be framed as somehow, oh, this guy set himself on fire because he doesn't like Donald Trump in some way, or if they have in some way been repressed or damaged by a conservative or traditionalist agenda. Imagine how this
I got
event
no
would have
issue with
been exploited.
mercenaries.
Now, we're not going to show you the footage because I
mean, that's a personal decision.
That, generally speaking, I found it too.
You want to take money to do something like that?
Still from it that Caitlin Johnston.
I mean, one mercenary is only going to make so much.
Understand modern America. The serviceman burned himself to death, having a pistol aimed at him. What an astonishing image that is. Caitlin Johnson has also written this piece on the broader implications of this tragic, unpleasant event. Active US airman Aaron Bushnell set himself on fire outside the embassy in Washington today. He said he did it in protest of the genocide in
At least they're straight up about it. We're doing it. A mercenary's doing it for the money.
Showed up pointing a gun at the man's burning body. I guess that's just what American cops do when they aren't sure what to do. Someone who's actually trying to save the man reportedly yelled, "I don't need guns, I need fire extinguishers." I feel sometimes the world throws up the perfect symbol to define our time. In this instance, a serviceman who set himself on fire in protest of a war supported by the United States of America and therefore taxpayer dollars, ultimately ends up with a police officer pointing a gun at him while he burns himself to death. Tells you something, not only about the conflict in the Middle East, in particular the Gaza conflict, but it also tells you something about the relationship between the state and the military, the state and all of us, the nihilism,
wealth buys oppression everywhere,
and the hopelessness of the plight of the world when wars funded and perpetuated in this manner
everywhere
lead even to those that are asked to enact what is required of the military to self-immolation, self-destruction, despair and dread. I think all of us get a sense that the military are exploited, their image, their loyalty, their service, used to leverage censorship and compliance from the rest of us who may have many questions about the nature of these wars. But this provides us with an event and a symbol that brings into stark and stunning reality exactly what's going on in the Middle East, as if the images from that region weren't enough to help us understand the need for intervention, the need for diplomacy, the need for an end to these wars. This just might be the most American thing I've ever heard of. It's more American than the fake bald eagle cries that they put in Hollywood movies. It's more American than monster trucks and mass shootings. You simply cannot fit more America into a single incident than a man dying a horrifying death a protest of war crimes while a first responder screams at cops to stop pointing their guns at him and go and get fire extinguishers. If you were to pick a single moment in history to sum up the essence and expression of the US empire, that would be it. That's why I'll be very surprised if this gets much mainstream coverage. Of course, there is the horror, gore, sadness and tragedy of human being doing that in desperation protest. But there's also what is implied by the event. All of us remember the image of that child running away from napalm attacks in Vietnam. All of us remember the man in Tiananmen Square holding those bags in front of a tank. Those images were popularized presumably because in some way or another we either had a more responsible news media at that time that genuinely opposed the establishment agenda, or we were just more naive and the establishment agenda at those points required withdrawal from Vietnam, so they started to popularise that image. Or in the case of Tiananmen Square, you can see why opposition to China would always have been an attitude or an aspect. Nevertheless, at this point where many of us are questioning the legitimacy of events in Gaza, the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war, the escalation of tensions between America and China, a service person doing this outside an embassy is an indication that the appetite for these wars is waning, even as more and more we're subjected to various advocates for militarism saying you have to keep this war going. We're just on the brink of beating Russia. We're just about to achieve Middle Eastern peace through war. You have to control Iran. If we don't do this, it's clear that that idea is running out of steam.
Oh, believe me, I know, man. I still got some crud in me. I feel better and I sound better.
Our understanding of these wars.
But I'm still coughing. I'm still
our channel is continually accused of conveying misinformation. We are accused of being conspiracy.
Draining when I'm in the show. I gotta speed up around these guys.
We try to convey the truth. We try to understand power. On that basis, here are some facts about actual support for the war. Here are some facts about the way that.
Yeah, one of my best dinner buddies has been sick for the last 2 weeks.
And how they feel more what economic and domestic conditions are, so that you can decide for yourselves what might be behind these forever wars.
Buddies I eat with almost every day. He hasn't been to the bar in 2 weeks. I messaged him yesterday asking how he was doing. He's like finally rounded the corner.
17% support the United States.
It's just lingering.
We can to help Ukraine, even if it provokes a war. This war is becoming.
It's this fucking hot cold bullshit too, man.
Tied to other wars and other regional dispute, shall we call them, there is still an appetite to continue to fund this dispute.
Yeah, we hope you feel better soon too, bud.
Resolution. A majority of American adults would not be willing to serve in the military were the US to enter into a major war, recent polling has found. Ought then we not be considering that fact when entering into further agitation with Russia and potentially China and escalating tensions in the Middle East?
Your house, Bess. Yeah. When you get kids in the house, it's always... The wife was even feeling a little bit cruddy again this morning. She let me oversleep. Usually she's on my ass to get up and get to work.
Democracy means a set of institutions, be they
strong black coffee, hell yeah,
that serve the carriage of power, that serve the fulfillment of the agenda of the powerful. It's a brilliant shift. When they say we have to do this to protect democracy, there's no elections.
I love strong black coffee.
Democracy, we mean BlackRock. Thank the Lord we can bring in this.
It's warm today though, so I'm drinking tea.
Sponsors, support them if you can.
Unsweetened iced tea.
It's about Field of Greens. It's the healthiest thing I do every day, and I want you on this journey with me side by side. It's literally one scoop a day. It tastes great. My favourite is the original flavour, and it's completely improved my life. This is nutrition the way that nature intended, in a scoop. Here's what I noticed since I started taking Field of Greens: way more energy over the course of the day. Sleeping better.
Vitamin D,
like a baby.
vitamin C.
They're tracking difficult at night.
All the stuff he said, but vitamin D, vitamin C, two big ones.
It helps in my digestion. My
Get that vitamin D in you
I feel
though.
better overall, and I think healthier, stronger. Field of Greens is radically different. Each
Try and catch a little bit of the sun.
Medically chosen to support the heart and vital organ health. I trust Field of Greens to keep me healthy. I promise you're going to love this product, but if for any reason you don't, they'll give you 100% money back guarantee. Now listen, I've got you 15% off your first order, plus free rush shipping. Visit brickhouserussell.com and use promo code BRAND. That's promo code BRAND at Brickhouse.
Especially if it's viral. Vitamin D is the best for you if it's viral.
Quinnipiac polls show that 85% of Americans worry about getting pulled into a war in the Middle East. Some 65% want a ceasefire in Israel's war on Gaza, not US military action. That appears to be a statistic that will sway the outcome. President Joe Biden will convene the top 4 congressional leaders at the White House this week to press.
Yeah, but when you sweat that, you need to replace those fluids.
National security package bolsters aid for Ukraine, Israel.
It is good to sweat it out, but replace those fluids.
Pieces of data lead to that piece of data. No one wants
I figured you didn't know, but I understood what you
We're
meant.
going to be funding some more wars. Well, were you listening to the first bit? We were listening and actively ignoring. Congress has passed 4 spending.
And not just the pills, you got something that absorbs good.
$13 billion in total. As of September 2021, the Pentagon spending has totaled over $14 trillion since the start of the war in Afghanistan, with $1.5 of the total going to military contractors. $1.5 of the total going to military contractors. Are you beginning to suspect that there could be an agenda beyond helping different sets of children around the world? Remember, you may have recently seen Victoria Newland say, the good thing about this war in Ukraine is a lot of the money finds its way back to the American military-industrial complex.
And by the way, most of the support we are providing actually goes right back into the U.S. economy and defense industrial base.
Yeah, almost as if that's the whole point of this. A large portion of these contracts, 1/4 to 1/3 of all Pentagon contracts in recent years, have gone to just 5 major corporations: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman. I wonder if they have any influence on these policies. Again, using Mike Benz's analysis, democracy now doesn't mean elections in these institutions. Presumably, some of these institutions are the relationships between the state and major corporations, donors and funders. Let me know in the chat how you would assess that information. Meanwhile, how are the actual military personnel themselves feeling about?
Why does this happen to me all the time? I'm exiting here and there's always a truck slowly pulling onto the freeway as I'm trying to get off. So he's got a hammer trying to get up to speed. I got to get around him.
Hear how you talk about your time in service. Look at some of these statistics. It's an astonishing insight.
I swear that rest area is in the worst place.
Health and financial challenges, according to a survey
Hey, dirty Taco Bell.
Family Advisory Network, which found that nearly 1/4 of enlisted families are experiencing food insecurity. And more than 60% of respondents pay more than they can comfortably afford on housing. Active service personnel can afford food and shelter.
We got gas station Taco Bell here.
At the top of the Maslow pyramid of need. I'm doing the pyramid of need. So it's something Illuminati, the pyramid of needs. So if you're in the services and you can't afford food and shelter, go America or not. 1/5 of active service families and nearly 40% of veteran families surveyed reported less than $500 of emergency savings or no emergency savings funds. And over 3/4 of military families indicated they carry debt. Almost 40,000 veterans are without shelter in the US on any given night. Those statistics I find very difficult to listen to, and they are brought into stark clarity by the image of Aaron Bushnell ablaze outside an embassy in protest of a war. It seems that Aaron Bushnell has identified another conflict for which he is willing to give his life. And I would say in that conflict there is an indication that there is a deeper patriotism available to all of us. What does it really mean to support our tribe, to support our nation, to support our people? Does it mean the continued funneling of our tax dollars and resources to those 5 companies? Or does it mean disobedience and the ability to oppose their agenda? Let me know in the chat in the comments what side of that equation you find yourself. Once again, Caitlin Johnson has written about how both parties, the Republican and the Democrats, when it comes to this issue of war, and perhaps
Fire
war is the
sticks.
ultimate issue, you tell me, ultimately
Well,
agree with
anything
one another
electronic
and
can go
tend to
bad.
simply use different aesthetics when it comes
I mean, that's
to what
pretty much solid
legitimizes
state
their
equipment.
war or their
It
pursuit
just depends
of their
on
agenda. It's an interesting article. Have a listen.
when it
The
was
difference
when
between
it was
Republicans
cracked
and
what they
Democrats
used.
is that if a Republican president were to back a genocide, it will be an evil and unforgivable atrocity.
I never really got
Whereas
into
when a
that stuff.
Democrat president
I've got
backs a
lots of friends that
genocide,
used
it's a
to
minor
make
foible
some
that you
decent
better
money
shut
on
up
those
about
things,
unless you
buying
want
them,
Trump to win.
cracking
The
them,
difference
and then
between Republicans and
selling them.
Democrats is that the Republicans argue in support of wars, militarism, capitalism, and oppression
But
using
I think you could always do it.
whereas Democrats argue in support of wars, militarism,
Oh,
and
really?
capitalism, and oppression using
You try to do a factory
The difference
reset
between
on it, you should
Republicans
have
and
like a
Democrats
button
is
on
that
it or
Republicans
something.
do evil things for evil reasons, whereas Democrats do evil things for noble, humanitarian reasons. The difference between Republicans and Democrats is
Could
that
be
Republicans
toast, too. Who
facilitate all
knows?
the interests of the US empire because America is strong.
I use
and
Roku
should rule the
sticks for
world, whereas
TVs that
Democrats
don't have
facilitate all
apps.
the interests of the US empire because America is liberal and egalitarian and defends the rules-based international order.
Yeah, it
The
didn't work.
difference
It's
between
done
Republicans and
then.
Democrats is that Republicans want to start a world war with China, whereas Democrats
It may-
strongly favour starting
Somebody
a
may be able to
war
plug it in and
with
flash
Russia.
it,
The
but
difference between Republicans and Democrats is that people massacring civilians
man, this
in the
train is
global
moving
South under
slow.
Republican administrations are racist, homophobic, misogynistic bigots, whereas the people massacring
Oh, okay.
civilians in the global South under Democratic administrations
And I
are
take it the
inclusive,
other one
intersectional,
worked just
feminist,
fine.
LGBTQ allies. The difference between Republicans and Democrats is that Republicans criticize Democrats for made-up nonsense reasons like wokeness, whereas Democrats criticize Republicans for made-up nonsense reasons like Russiagate. The difference between
Pac-Man
Republicans
high
and Democrats
score.
is that Republicans are led by demented octogenarian swamp monsters together in a office promoting
It doesn't have an account you log into?
Whereas Democrats, oh well, I guess that one's budget.
With my Roku, when actually it's weird because
Liberals feel bad when Republicans are
one of my I had an extra Roku and
when Democrats are.
I'm not gonna I don't know which one exactly, but one of the dogs ate the remote to one of the Rokus. I know you can just get a new remote for it, but I kind of wanted to replace it anyway because it was an IR, you know, and if the receiver wasn't facing right, it was a pain in the butt to use in the bedroom. So I replaced it with a wireless one. And because I logged in with the same login, yeah, try and find the right account. Because like I said, when I logged in with the new one, all the apps that I had were downloaded instantly onto it. Only actually app I had to relog back into was Amazon Prime or Amazon Video, whatever. And I didn't even realize that until a couple nights ago when the wife was trying to watch something in the bedroom.
In Syria, the people that might die. In Taiwan, the people that will die. In China, the Americans that will die. All of the people that will be invited to die as this project continues, as well as perhaps assessing what benefits were gleaned from the Iraq War and who experienced those benefits. Did you?
Man, that train is fucking crawling, dude. Usually it's a high-speed rail.
How's your fuel prices? And who can you vote for right now that will end these wars? I know many of you will be responding Trump, Donald Trump. Perhaps some of you will be saying Robert Kennedy, but I know many of you have questions there. I can't imagine there's many of you saying Joe Biden because I read your comments. I know where you stand.
Is that focus bouncing around, or is that just my eyes?
Perhaps this is an opportunity, a time for us to assess the nature of war.
You guys see that?
Truly are. If American service personnel, while in active duty, are set
It's like a heartbeat.
and even the ones that aren't driven to martyrdom are living in pecunious circumstances of poverty and suffering, does the idea that criticizing the war machine is anti-patriotic even make sense anymore? And if you, as those statistics show, do not want to spend your tax dollars and your lives on these wars. Who is benefiting from these wars? When you see long-term political apparatchiks like Victoria Nuland saying it's necessary to continue the war against Russia, or when you see various advocacy groups saying it's necessary to further disrupt,
that's the crappy phone. It's not my good one like I was using last night.
Part of the obvious problem in that region.
It was a free phone.
On one side of the political aisle saying we must have war with Russia, and on the other side we must have war with China. And for those of us that are in other English-speaking nations, caught in the tailwind of your great nation, debating whether or not our tax money and our children's lives have to be spent on your wars, surely it's time for us to together as people, wherever we stand on the cultural scale, wherever we sit in the political spectrum, to say whose interests are being served by this. When you see legacy media instruments, even ones of entertainment, refusing to robustly question the integrity of this ongoing global military campaign, you have to ask, how is it that the media are owned, that the political establishment is owned?
Man, this train is falling.
Increasingly becoming owned.
I'm going to be late for my own interviews.
To facilitate who? In order to benefit who? And if you're wondering about what the benefits of these wars might be, have a look at what the benefits of the last wars were and how they benefited you, your family, and your community. And if to ask those questions is unpatriotic, then I'd have to say that I am becoming increasingly less patriotic. I say that as an Englishman. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the chat. See you in a second. Forgiveness of humanity relies on moral love. Fantastic stuff. Some beautiful comments. Money, Russ says, I-prong.
The Taco Bell worker.
Monks burn themselves to free Tibet.
Yeah, Taco Bell had baseball cap on.
Yeah, dedicated people with real principles may in the end sacrifice themselves for their beliefs unencumbered. All the war propaganda, all the screaming and lies and hatred comes invariably from people who are not fighting. George Orwell there. We're going to do an additional 10 minutes on locals today. We'll post a link in the description. If you want to come over for an additional little hangout. Hey, maybe we'll get a little look at Gareth if you behave yourselves. Lottie777 talking about Aaron Bushnell says, you've only seen this story on our channel. Is that true? The legacy media not covering this? Why is that? Imagine if this was someone that had set themselves on fire to protest against, it's like Donald Trump in some way. You would never really last it, would you? But because it's an anti-war protester, in particular to quote him directly, anti-genocide Gaza, to use the terms he used.
Mr. Claiborne.
I would include in my anti-war stance, no war.
Right, train's gone. Gates are up.
We're never
Start
talking
moving.
about war and the reasoning behind them. We're just to be good little minions, absorb the propaganda and cheer our country on. When I see minions now, of course, I do remember that I was in Despicable Me, and I did.
Now we got to deal with all the idiots that are trying to turn left as soon as right after the tracks.
Okay. Hey, listen. This is an interesting. Like now, you know when we saw Albert Baller interviewed on mainstream. CEO of Pfizer, Albert Baller, he was always like, "Oh, where is the fantastic product?" Now, Kellogg's cornflakes may not be lethal, but the way that the CEO of Kellogg's is advocating for us eating cornflakes for every goddamn meal of the day, right flops, I call it. Someone should make it for butcher corn. Let's have a look at the CEO of Kellogg's. The CEO of Kellogg's suggesting we eat cereal for our dinner.
I know.
We'll go to restaurants, eat cereal for our dinner. Why don't you just put it in a we'll eat like the pigs think we are. Let's have a look.
The cereal category
Yeah.
has always been quite affordable, and
It's popping up constantly in people's news feeds.
Used to be a great destination when consumers are under pressure. So some of the things that we're doing is supposed to be something that meets the consumer where they are. So we're advertising cereal for dinner. If you think about the cost of cereal for a family versus what they might otherwise do, that's going to be much more affordable.
It's a lot more affordable. It's also a bit more depressing, isn't it, to think of a family sat around for Thanksgiving around a bowl of Rice Krispies.
I'm all for innovation
Crackle and poverty.
and marketing, but the idea of having cereal for dinner, is there the potential?
The guy on CNBC magazine whose basic function is to support this kind of financially led story. But look, I've got a family, and the idea that I'm going to give a cocoa pop to my son on Christmas Day, it bugs me, man.
Potential for that to land the wrong way?
We don't think so. In fact, it's landing really well right now.
No, actually, you're wrong. Cereal for dinner is great.
You know, Carl, when we look at all of our data, of course we would...
Data? That's cereal for dinner? What possible data can you have? Hey, it says here that eating cereal for dinner is not depressing. Cereal for dinner, then.
know that breakfast cereal is the #1 choice for in-home consumption. We
masturbating all day long, alone in a cell. Yeah, why not?
understand that for breakfast. It turns out that over 25% of our consumption is outside the breakfast occasion. A lot of it's at dinner, and that occasion continues to grow, as well as the snacking occasion. But
that's weird. That's just plain weird.
Have a look at a deteriorating society.
So yeah, you'd pay to go out there and be there for it instead of just staying outside.
Alone at dinner time. At the dinner time,
it's fucking weird.
Cereal for dinner is something that is probably more on trend now, and we would expect to continue as that consumer is under pressure.
That pressure is leading us into total despair, perhaps the kind of despair that's induced with the ongoing banalization of the culture. Here's Joe Biden in aviators, appealing to God alone knows who through a series of non-sequiturs and banalities. That's the Kellogg's going in. Did I mention, why don't you have cereal for your dinner tonight? Instead of something healthy, instead of sitting down and sharing a joint, in the traditional sense, with a loved one, why not just eat some cereal?
If there's a grift out there, that people will find it. Definitely learned that locked up. It's possible to be grifted. It will be grifted 10 different ways. Oh my God. She just did chalk. They're doing chalk outlines of each other on the sidewalk. That's something that I want being taught in school.
Funny, isn't it? Funny. It's not funny like funny thing is funny. It's not funny. It's not funny thing. It's amusing. It's sort of weird. It's creepy. It's misjudged.
Here, can you confirm or deny that there is an active conspiracy between you and Miss Swift?
Oh, that's true. I'm wondering if I'm gonna have to, because I want to record it. I'm wondering if I'm gonna have to do something for my phone's lens though.
10 years after CIA sponsored the coup.
Because I got the space zoom, but is it gonna destroy the fucking camera?
Information that's classified. The documentation of your financial relationship.
Or will I be able to put a film on it?
The military-industrial complex exerts over your administration. The reason that the Pentagon can't pass a single audit. A lot of things seem to be classified.
Thin blue line shirt on that woman.
She did.
Right, hooray for 2020. And how did that work out?
You might be wondering. You think it might come around again?
It's classified. I think now that he's discovered that you can just say things are classified, so we're doing that a lot, isn't he? He's just say it again and again. Let's have a look at what Joe Biden proposes to bring us in the 2024 election.
Well, if I use shit phone, I won't get a good recording of it.
America, this is it.
I mean, you've seen the moonshots I can get with the space zoom. I'm just worried about the sun smoking the lens on it. I should research that a little bit.
So, what's Biden going to do in the event that you spend your hard-earned
Is this the guy that? Yeah, I had to fire someone this morning because he fucking one of the 7 people that I still got working here, and he decided he's going to call off every other day. So they released him. And now he's saying, well, you can't release me because I got the law on my side, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, it's an at-will work state. It's not my decision. It's the client's decision. Normally, they're like, hey, just let them know when we pick back up again. You know, we'll probably be able to use them. They ain't going to after they hear what this guy said.
Joe Biden, by being unelectable, by being ridiculous.
At least they let me replace him right away.
Being a visual
Already have a
symbol
replacement
of
starting
the
tomorrow.
decay and decline of the political institutions that were once the envy of the world. It's not Russia. Russia's not the problem.
Cyber experts. Moscow has been using fake online accounts and bots to damage President Biden's campaign.
You use bots against me. How dare you use a bot on me? Well, actually,
All right, guys. I'll see you later. If I can get the stream going, I will. Looks like there's already people here waiting for me, though. So we'll see. It may take a minute to get it up. Love you guys. Thanks for riding with me. Peace.
Saying that why would he want? Why would he prefer Trump? Why wouldn't he